Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority's Audit Committee. Today is Wednesday, May 20th, 2026. This meeting is being recorded. Commissioner Slauson,
Here.
Commissioner Saunders,
Here.
Commissioner Stringer.
Here.
We have quorum.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Welcome and looking forward to which should be a relatively focused meeting today. The first item on our agenda, Janine, do you want to go first? Well, actually, first is the acceptance of the minutes. Any corrections to the minutes that anybody wants to register?
Look good to me. Thank you.
Okay, great. Then that's moved. Then we'll move to item number 2 on our agenda. If that's all right. Janine, do you want to go first? All right, great. Thank you. Item number 2, to report on the single audit for the year end June 30th, 2025. Thanks, Janine, for being here. I know you're very busy. Appreciate you being here.
Janine Lim, Deputy CFO. As I understand it, I will be reporting on the corrective action plan.
Yeah,
correct?
that's what I was hoping. I mean, this has been filed and is now available on the HUD clearinghouse. We also have it attached to our agenda today, so it's provided. But basically, what I was hoping to do is just have you explain, talk about the findings and the corrective action plan related to those, because I prefer to look forward on this to see what we can do to improve things moving forward. That's okay.
Sure. So what I'm going to do is pull from the corrective action plan and kind of just read through what was stated there. And then I will kind of break that out and tell you of that statement, what has been implemented or when it will be implemented.
Okay, that sounds good. So we have there are 2 findings, right? So we can go through each one of those serially. Thanks.
Right. So we'll go through the first finding, which is the 2025-001 significant deficiency in internal control over financial reporting. So as our statement says, LAHSA will enhance its financial close process to support accurately and timely financial reporting, including strengthening coordination with its funding agencies to ensure timely determination of carryover amounts impacting year-end reporting. This will include establishing earlier communication timelines with funders, identifying key decision points related to carryover balances, and implementing internal milestones to track the status of funding determinations. So that was the statement that was in the corrective action plan. In regard to that statement, we are working closely with the county as we close this fiscal year, meeting every week and following up via email in the interim to determine carryover amounts. So that part is implementing. We are also working in collaboration with the county to communicate to service providers the importance of timely invoice submission, which contributes to the need for a carryover balance. That is also implementing. We are also working closely with the city to determine year-end balances as well, with our finance teams on respective sides meeting on a weekly basis. LAHSA will also enforce timely reconciliation and review of material accounts as part of the year-end close process. These actions will help ensure the timely completion of fiscal year-end close and issuance of financial statements. We are currently also implementing this. LAHSA was able to retain key staff that assist greatly in year-end close and issuance of financial statements. Additionally, we will be building out a calendar of action items to be completed in preparation of the year-end fiscal close.
Great. Does anybody have any questions about that? So that's great. So the issue, just so I can summarize a little bit, the issue for this on this portion of this finding was related to the fact that it took us longer to get things closed than we had anticipated, correct?
Correct.
And so the plan is, understand the plan to try to work on that, and we're build a calendar. So what are we shooting for? Do you have just a question in terms of closing the finances? You'll come back to us with a calendar for when that's going to happen. Yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot about it now, but
yeah, we will come back to you with a calendar on that.
Okay, and when you're talking about financial close, you mean the year-end financial close, not
year-end close.
Okay, so not a monthly close and reconciliation.
As it relates to the single audit, we're talking about a fiscal year-end close.
Okay, All right. I think that's great. And the date I saw on this for implementation is September 30th, 2026, I think is the planned completion date that was listed on the,
Is that what is listed in?
that's what's listed on the, yeah, in the letter, signed by, Guido O'Neill.
I see. Yes, I see that.
Okay. So great. So I think that's, I think it'd be interesting for us to see a calendar for when we think when you think you're gonna be able to complete that close. That way we can hopefully avoid, any kind of delays in terms of filing. So we'll put that on the agenda for a future audit committee meeting, to present that.
Sure.
Thank you. And then there's a second portion of this,
Yes, the second portion is related to the mandatory disclosures. So regarding mandatory disclosures of potential violations of federal criminal law during fiscal year 2024-25, LASA identified suspected irregularities and disallowed costs involving a subrecipient under the Youth Homelessness Demonstration Program. LASA terminated the subaward agreement and ultimately submitted and documented the submission of the required disclosure to HUD and the HUD Office of Inspector General. Due to limitation in HUD's disclosure portal and the absence of documentation confirming submission, elimination of staffing positions, and turnover of employees, LASA could not verify whether the disclosure had been previously transmitted. Accordingly, LASA submitted and documented the disclosure to HUD on April 25th, 2026 to ensure compliance. Additionally, LASA reported the same to the county OIG as well as the LA District Attorney's Office. So I'm going to go through the points that were submitted in the corrective action plan and tell you which ones have been implemented
Thank
and
you.
which ones have been completed.
Great.
Refining formal written procedures for evaluating, documenting, approving, and submitting disclosures required under federal regulations. We'll do this by the first quarter. Refining, tracking, and retention requirements to maintain evidence of submissions and related communications with federal agencies. We are currently implementing that now, making sure we have proper repositories that are accessible to multiple parties to make sure that everybody has access to all the information. Enhancing staff training and management review and escalation procedures for matters involving suspected fraud, disallowed costs, or potential violations of federal law. That will be completed by the first quarter. Training personnel and implementing supervisory oversight procedures to reduce reliance on a single individual for critical compliance activities and ensure continuity of operations. That will also be the first quarter. Providing additional training to responsible staff regarding federal disclosure requirements and compliance responsibility. That will also be the first quarter. Continuing engagement with HUD and the HUD Officer of Inspector General to validate that all required disclosures related to this matter have been completed and to address any follow-up actions or information requests. This is currently implementing.
Is monitoring activity the last one?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, no worries. Yeah.
Am I missing one? I
think it's the last
I'm sorry,
page.
we might be missing
No
one.
worries. Yeah. Establishing monitor activities.
Establishing monitor activities. So we have actually have implemented this in part. The monitoring activities right now, as we can do them, are related to our invoice review process. So for next fiscal year, we will be changing our monitoring for subrecipients before the contract gets executed or upon contract execution to approve the subrecipients. But for this year, what we can do is look through the invoices that are coming in now and identify any activity that contains a service provider using a subcontractor or a subrecipient, and to raise that up and to make sure that they have proper approval for the use of that subcontractor as well.
Thank you. Any questions? So just to understand the people responsible for this in the department. So could you explain kind of at LASA who's responsible for actually implementing these? There's some names listed here, but I just want to understand the functions.
Christopher Williams and Savannah Matthews are in the risk department, and the other person is me.
Okay. So Q1 is most of these are going to be implemented by Q1. Do you think it makes sense to have this on the agenda for our audit committee to do a presentation on how these have been implemented in the first quarter? So Q1 is starting soon.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes. I would probably make that the middle of Q1.
Yeah, I know it's
Right.
going to be happening over Q1. So it's, I mean, but that, yeah, this is, appreciate this, because this is a fairly serious, issue that I think we now have a good response to with kind of sounds like we'll probably be part of a larger, my guess is this will probably be part of a larger, upgrade on our risk management in general to take a step towards the COSO framework, where we can really make sure that, this is buckled down.
Yes, and one of the changes that is going to happen this next fiscal year is the moving of the folks that do the subrecipient monitoring over to the risk department.
Okay, yeah, I think that's really interesting because it can shows kind of reactivity on our part for this, and some good faith action to take care of responsiveness to these findings. Okay, that's great. Unless there's any other questions on the first finding, then we can go on to the second one.
Great. So for the second finding, which is finding 2025-002, this is in relation to the continuum of care and payroll disbursement. The recommendation from CLA is that they recommend that LASA implement procedures to ensure that timesheet approval is documented timely. LASA's response is LASA has enhanced its internal controls over timesheets approvals to ensure timely documentation. Timesheet approval status reports are reviewed on a weekly basis during chief level meetings to monitor compliance. Timesheets not approved within 2 days of the established deadline are escalated to the respective chief and deputy chief for immediate follow-up. If timesheets remain unapproved after an additional 2 days, the matter is further escalated to the CEO for prompt resolution. These procedures establish clear accountability and escalation protocols to ensure timely approval of timesheets. This is currently implementing.
Thanks. Could you just explain just generally what these timesheets are?
These timesheets are entered into our electronic system, and then they go through a one level of approval for, well, the employee submits their timesheet, it goes up to their supervisor to approve that timesheet.
Is it LASA? These are timesheets for LASA staff, or?
Yes, this is LASA staff. This is particularly LASA staff against federal funding.
Got it. Okay, thank you. All right, and that's all been implemented and at this point.
Yes, this one is quite an easy fix.
Any questions on this?
I just had maybe a general bigger picture question. Given the transition we're going through and the restructuring that's occurring, do you anticipate any kind of looking ahead, any challenges in implementing the corrective actions or other potential challenges with respect to issues around, future audits?
I think in a general sense, to implement what we need here, we have to on the risk management side, in creating a whole new department and shifting over a whole wing of folks, that's always going to be a challenge, but I think it's a challenge we can meet. We're adding a director of risk to that department also to help oversee that function and bring more continuity there. On the finance end, I only foresee us getting better at the financial close process. We have me, who can oversee the
Fabulous.
the calendar of action items that need to occur. This will be my first year for really being in the beginning of this process. I started in June last year, so the benefit now is that the items that kind of slow down the close process, which is what's occurring right now at the end of this fiscal year. As I said, tying up these carryover balances or tying up what needs to be done at the end of the fiscal is the part of the process that can become lengthy. And I plan to have a tighter eye on that. And I am much more in tune to it than I was when I first started on June 1st, 2025.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge too that you started in June, which means that almost everything we did in the single audit was done before you were part of LASA, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, this activity is stuff that happened at LASA before. So I just want to raise that up and appreciate you being here and standing in the position you're standing right now to work through this, because I know it's never easy working on these kind of things, especially when you weren't involved in the details of it. So very much appreciate that. I know it's not an easy spot to be in.
Thank you.
So thanks. But I think that what it gives me, I'm heartened that we have received feedback that we can react to, and it sounds like we've got a much more robust effort in not only the financial close process. So hopefully we can get. I mean, my dream is to get things submitted months before we've done it previously, which would be great because it also gets out of the way for us. It frees up that opportunity cost to do other things. And it's more in line with some of the benchmarks that we heard from our external auditors if we do it much earlier. And then also it sounds like we have a more robust risk management approach that can hopefully head off issues that we had that came with these findings. So I feel good that we're on a good track. So thank you very much for being here. I know there's a lot of moving parts right now. Unless anybody else has any questions.
Just another, maybe you all may know all this already, but I would love at some point an overview of how the risk management team kind of functions and how it, thinks about its work internally. I just don't have a good view of that. I understand finance better, but it would be great if, no rush, but at some meeting, if we just got a few minutes overview of that. And I don't want to create additional work. Just, awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I agree with that. And I think that kind of to the point of what Janine outlined of when these things are going to be implemented in Q1, I think maybe middle of Q1 or end of Q1, we can have a presentation. We'll ask for a presentation here from risk management, because so much of what we do in this committee is related to risk management. That I think it would be good to understand what that infrastructure is in place, what that staffing looks like, what the key documents are. If we have, I keep mentioning the COSO framework. Like I think that's something we're probably going to be stepping towards, something like that, to really understand how we're managing, identifying risk, monitoring things, and being proactive about it and allowing communication to be able to come back to us.
Yeah, great. I totally agree. And I lack some context here. It'd be helpful to get a little bit more, but I'm a newbie. I don't know how much longer I get to say that, but for a while anyway.
Same.
All right. Great. Thank you very much, Janine.
Thank you.
Okay. Aram, thank you for being here this morning. We're going to move to item number 3, which is an update on the current and prior audits. And I know we have some good news. I think you've completed an audit.
COC audit. Yes, good morning, everyone. Aram Shanawaz, Chief Audit Executive. Today, I'll be providing a brief update on current and prior internal audit activities, including the status of ongoing audits, key observations, and follow-up activities related to prior audit committee action items. Specifically, I'll provide updates regarding the continuum of care, grant utilization, and monitoring review. Internal audit conducted a review of continuum of care grant utilization trends and related monitoring practices supporting administration of COC funding within the Los Angeles continuum of care. The review included analysis of HUD grant expenditure data, review of applicable policies and procedures, and discussions with personnel involved in COC oversight and monitoring activities. The audit covered grant activity associated with a period of performance from 2020 through 2026. During the audit process and exit conference discussion, management provided clarification regarding the interpretation of HUD grant expenditure data, specifically the distinction between original awarded amounts and total current contracted amounts reflected in HUD's line of credit control system, or LOCCS, based on management clarification and HUD guidance regarding grant lifecycle adjustments. Internal audit revised portions of utilization analysis methodology to align primarily with total current contracted amounts relative to total disbursements. Based on the revised analysis, grants associated with completed grant periods between 2020 to 2023 generally reflected substantial utilization of contracted funding. Grants associated with 2024 period of performance reflected approximately 7.1 million in remaining balances between total current contracted amounts and total disbursements. Internal audit also identified significant remaining balances associated with active grant periods extending into 2025 and 2026. As of the analysis date, approximately 24% of contracted funding associated with those active grant periods had been dispersed. These grants remain active and are expected to continue drawing down funds over time as projects continue to operating and services continue to be delivered. The audit also identified opportunities to strengthen portfolio level visibility into expenditure trends and further enhance coordination of monitoring activities across operational functions involved in COC oversight. The exit conference discussions have been completed and the revised report has been shared with management for final management responses prior to issuance of the final report. In addition to the COC grant utilization and monitoring review, internal audit is currently performing fieldwork for signatory authority review. Initial document requests have been completed, samples have been selected, and testing is currently in progress. Internal audit is also conducting the provider invoice processing and payments control audit. Initial documentation has been obtained, and the audit team is currently in the process of reviewing the information received and preparing for sample selection and testing activities. Overall, internal audit continues to progress audit activities in accordance with the approved audit plan and will continue providing updates to the audit committee regarding the status of ongoing audits, key observations, management responses, and follow-up activities. Internal audit appreciates management's cooperation and coordination throughout the audit process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Aram. So just to recap, you gave an update on all three of the things that we're working on. One is the COC underspend audit, which is complete, which is substantially completed or nearly basically completed, which we have a copy of. And then the other two audits that you're in process, one is the signature authority, which is the samples have been selected and you're going through those. And then the third is the provider, it's a complicated name, the provider invoicing, processing, and centralization audit, which is part of our audit plan, right?
That's right.
Okay. So I've got a few questions, but I want to ask if anybody has any questions on the COC. So just first of all, I just want to say congratulations. This is the first
Thank you.
COC underspend audit is the first internal audit that we've completed, certainly on my watch on audit committee, but I think it's the first internal audit that we've completed at LASA for a long time. This was one that that kicked off in 2024.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's great to have it done. Generally, these things should be much quicker, and I think that the other ones you're working on should be quicker. But I just want to thank you and your team for actually muscling through this, and also management and the staff that also contributed to this, because it shows a good faith effort to get internal audit on track and to do the kind of internal introspection that we need to do to make things better at LASA and step towards operational excellence. On a question on this, so basically, just to understand some of the numbers here, in 2024, there's a total contract amounts. This is for HUD. Basically, we were looking at this because we were like, why aren't we? We felt like we're underspending. The origin of this is we felt like we're underspending some dollars that we're receiving from HUD. We're trying to understand why. Does that summarize the kind of impetus for starting this?
So what we did in our audit, we analyzed the numbers that we had from HUD data, and we came up with the total current contracted amount, which was 56 million, and the dispersed amount was 49 million, and the remaining balance is 7.1 million. And that was the amount that was not utilized until our analysis date.
But you were asked. But was the question why we decided to have this audit? Okay. Why you gave us the numbers, but we wanted to know what was the reason we chose this audit.
Yeah, I know it was before your time. It was in the queue. But
Yeah,
from your
we-
perspective, I'd like to, could you explain why we're taking a look at this?
Because we were pointed out that we're underspending our COC funding.
Okay, so resources that we had available weren't hitting the street, so to speak. So then in 2024, there was about 14%, about 7 million is about 14%-ish or something like that of the money that was.
I'm sorry, what was that in 20?
So it's in 2024, we had a current contracted amount. That's it's separate from the awarded amount from LASA, but that's the contracted amount, 56 million, and we were able to disperse 49 million.
Yes, that's right.
So that the gap is 7 million. So it's about 14%. And could you just illuminate a little bit more why you think, so based on what your findings are, what was driving that?
So we are actually still awaiting management responses. Once we have management responses, we have a clear picture why we were not able to spend every dollar that we received from HUD.
Okay. And the work in progress, the 2025, 2026 is in progress. Still,
Yeah.
those are still active. So
Mhm.
that's showing a lot of underspend, but that makes sense because we're in the middle of that, still in the middle of that.
Right.
Okay. So then we actually need to finalize this report.
Based on the management responses. Yeah.
Okay. And got it. All right. So then I spoke too soon. We're not totally done. But hopefully we can next time.
What are the implications of an underspend? Does it have implications for getting equal funds in the following year?
Yes, the implication could be that we won't be able to receive the same amount of funds that we have currently, or, we're not spending what we already have to the needy people that are out there and who require that money.
And do we have is there like a history of this, or has this happened before?
No, so from what we observed from 2020 to 2023, everything was spent. But in 2024, we have an underspend of 7.1 million. And then in 2025 and 2026, we have spent almost 24%, whatever we have received. And we still have like 76% that needs to be spent. But those are the current grant cycles, we're still.
I understand. Thank you. If that's somewhere in the materials, I apologize for asking something I could have read.
It's okay. Thank you.
That's right. So I think what we'll do then, thank you for that presentation on this. We're going to move to the other ones in a minute, but so we'll wait then again, I spoke too soon. It's not totally finalized, so it's going to be finalized soon. So the next meeting that we have, does that sound reasonable? That'll be ready?
Yes,
for finalization?
that's right.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. And then the other two are in progress. Do you have what I just want to ask, do you have what you need? Do you need support from this committee to move along the signature authority audit or the provider invoicing processing audit?
We currently have the initial documents for both of our audits, and we're working on testing the documents for testing the samples for first audit, which is signatory authority. We have already selected samples, and we now have access to EGMS. a read-only access. So we're able to see what we have on the system, and we should be able to get the documents directly from the system,
Okay, great. So you don't need to
which
go.
is very convenient.
That's really convenient. That's great. So that way you can just you can go directly to the documentation rather than having to wait for somebody
Yeah.
else to assist with you. So that's good. So your department, so you feel like there's no obstacles between you and this moving?
Not at this point.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So that's great. If you have them, let us know and we'll help out if we can. Anything else from anybody? All right. Thank you. That's great.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to item number 4, which are action items from the prior meeting, which I don't think we had any. We covered the COC underspend and the signatory audit. And we also all have IAA membership now. So we can access that.
No, not yet. It hasn't approved
Oh, it
yet.
hasn't approved yet?
Yeah, I have already applied for it, but it hasn't approved yet.
All right.
I'll let you know as soon as we have it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. That should be a good resource for both our committee members and the staff to understand better the internal audit function. All right. So in terms of just for item number 5, we are going to be putting on a future calendar a future agenda, a calendar for when we kind of expect the milestones for the next single audit to be completed. And we'll look to the finance department to prepare that when they're ready. And then also a presentation with an overview of our kind of risk management function holistically when that's ready. So I guess that would be Chris and Janine at some point. But we don't have to push that. We don't have to rush that, but it's something that we think is important and we can get done. Any other questions or requests for future anything future? Any public comment?
We don't have any, Commissioner.
Amazing. All right. Well, there you go. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.